Good morning. We're on the record. Good morning. As chairperson of the Alcoholic Beverage and Cannabis Board for the District of Columbia, and in accordance with DC Code Section 2571 et seq. Of the Open Meetings Act, OMA, I am welcoming you to the regular scheduled meeting of the Alcoholic Beverage and Cannabis Board. This meeting is being conducted pursuant to guidance made available by the District of Columbia's Office of Open Government regarding electronic meetings held by public bodies. Electronic meetings by the ABC Board are authorized pursuant to Section 2577A of the DC Code. Pursuant to the OMA requirements, notice of today's meetings was provided 48 hours in advance of the meeting on ABCA's website and on the District Central meeting calendar. The notice included the time, date, agenda, and call-in or login information for public participation. This electronic meeting has been hosted by a WebEx account provided by the District of Columbia government. Please address any questions or complaints to the OG at opengovoffice@dc.gov. My name is Donovan Anderson. I'm chairperson of the board. I would like to introduce the other members of the ABC board who are also participating electronically. Please respond when I announce your names. Mr. Silas Grant.
Mr. Silas Grant, present.
Mr. David Meadows.
Good morning, Mr. David Meadows, present.
The board has 3 members in attendance for the conduct of business today, and that constitutes a quorum. There's just one case scheduled on our calendar today, and so I will call this case. I'll call this case, and so it is protest hearing, case number 24PRO 00080. Positronics, license number 127977. Good morning, Ms. Oriana. Can you please elevate the rights of the parties in this case?
Good morning. Supervisor Investigator Jason Peru, your access has been elevated. Marcus Jennings, access has been elevated. Patrick Welch, access has been elevated. Stephen McCarty, access has been elevated. And Todd Lewis, access has been elevated. That appears to be all term.
Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hold on a minute, please. All right. Sorry. So let me just have the parties identify themselves for the record. Let's start with the licensee. I need you to identify yourself for the record, please, sir. Spell and state your name for the record. I can't hear you, sir.
Need to unmute.
I'm sorry. Let's start. Hold on a minute. Hold on. I'm sorry. Let's start. I apologize. Hold on. I need to start with Mr. Sims. I'm sorry. Hold on. Let's see. I need to start with Mr. Lewis. Now, Mr. Lewis, I apologize. You're the person I need to start with. So can you please identify yourself for the record, sir?
Good morning. Good morning. May it please this honorable board. Todd Lewis on behalf of Positronics.
I apologize, Mr. Lewis. I am supposed to go with the attorneys first. Mr. Lewis, is your client here today, sir?
Yes, sir. And I'm here with my client, the representatives for Positronics, Mr. Sims and Mr. Welsh.
All right, thank you. Let's have Mr. Sims, please identify yourself for the record, please.
Daniel Sims, owner of Positronics.
And I was told Mr. Welch is there. Mr. Welch, can you identify yourself for the record, please, sir?
Patrick Welch, partner with Positronics.
All right, so let me have Mr. McCarty, right?
Yes, good morning.
Good word, sir. Please identify yourself for the record.
Commissioner Stephen McCarty, STEVEN MCCARTY, representing Single Member District 2G04, also now the chair of ANC 2G in this new term.
All right, good morning. Good morning. And I just want to, just for the record, Mr. McCarty, you are representing not single member district. You are representing the ANC, okay? Because only the
Yes.
ANC has. So I'm saying this, so I just want to make sure that I let the ANC commissioners know that when they come to a hearing, they are representing the ANC, not their single member district, because only the ANC has standing in these hearings. Okay, so I just want to, just a little technical thing. I just want to let folks know that when you appear here, you're representing the ANC as a whole. But congratulations on your promotion to your on the election as chair.
Thank
Um,
you.
that comes with a lot, but I was an ANC commissioner at a period. I was never chair, but I understand. All right. Okay, sir. Thank you. All right. Um, it's my understanding, if I remember correctly, it's the continuation of the hearing, and if I am wrong, I need the parties to just correct me. But it's my if it's my recollection that the licensee testified, the protester testified, and so we're here today to have the investigator testified because the investigator was unavailable to testify at our last hearing. And so the investigator will testify, the board will ask questions of the investigator. Once the board asks questions of the investigator, the licensee, the applicant will have an opportunity to ask questions. Then the ANC will have an opportunity to ask questions, and then we'll have closing, and we'll do closing. And at closing, I want the parties to specifically share with us what it is that they want the board to do. What is it that they expect the board to do as a result of having this hearing today? Any questions by anyone before we start? Mr. Lewis? Any questions, sir?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so the board will call its witness, and so we want to call supervisory investigator, Mr. Jason Peru. Mr. Peru, can you spell and state your name for the record, please?
Sure. Good morning. Jason Peru, JASONPERU.
And Mr. Peru, where are you currently employed?
At the Alcoholic Beverage and Cannabis Administration in Washington, D.C.
And what is your position with the administration, sir?
Supervisor investigator in charge of cannabis enforcement.
How long have you been working at this, at the agency?
11 and a half years.
And so you've been working at the agency for 11 and a half years, sir. And what in the 11 and a half, tell me what positions have you held within the agency within that period of time, sir?
Sure. I was investigator for alcohol enforcement, and then I became a supervisor investigator, responsible for a team of alcohol investigators. And then I took on the role as cannabis enforcement supervisor, and doing inspections and investigations on cannabis, unlicensed and licensed cannabis businesses in the District of Columbia.
How long have you held the role as investigator working within the cannabis division?
I started doing cannabis in October of 2020. So, yeah, 4.5 years, 4 years.
And how long have you how long have you held the position as supervisor investigator in this division?
For cannabis, well, I've been a supervisor investigator the entire time. Officially, taking over cannabis was July of last year, but I've been doing enforcement for cannabis since February of last year.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, so Mr. Peru, are you familiar with the case that we have here today, Positronic?
I am. I received the protest request report from legal regarding Positronics.
And so, what do you mean you receive a protest report? What does that mean? Explain to me. What is it that? How did you become involved? Become aware of this applicant?
So new retailers in the district are placarded, and the ANC then has the right to contest and protest the application. Once that protest is submitted and the parties cannot come to a settlement, then it's forwarded from legal to the enforcement division to conduct a information gathering and put together an investigative report in reference to the location.
All right, thanks. So did there come a time that you were able to put a case report together for this case?
There was.
Do you have access to this report, sir?
I do.
So, Mr. Oriana, can you please allow Mr. Supervisor Investigator Peru to share his screen so he could have access to this report?
Access has been granted.
Thank you. All right, so Mr. Peru, can you identify the document that we are looking at, sir?
Sure, this is the investigative report that I put together.
And when did you put this report together?
A couple weeks ago. It's sometime in December.
Okay. Well. Now, so who's protesting this license application?
So this is for Positronics located at 1209 10th Street Northwest in the rear. Really, it's the main entrance is in Blagden's Alley. And this is a new application for a retailer, and it's being protested by ANC 2G. And at the time, I spoke to Mr. McCarty. Congratulations on your new role, Mr. McCarty. And interviewed and spoke with them about their concerns.
Now, you said, are you familiar with Blagden Alley?
I am.
How are you familiar with Blagden Alley?
Through my role as a investigator with ABCA and the liquor licenses that are located within the alley, I've been there before and visited that location before.
So just briefly, I know this is not in your report, but just tell us about Blagden Alley, this location, please.
Well, Battle Alley's been kind of rehabilitated over the years that I've been with the board, and new businesses have come in there, coffee shops, some commercial businesses, access. There was a exclusive type restaurant that had first opened. I remember doing the inspection back there years ago, and access to other restaurants and bars from within that alley. My knowledge of the alley being deemed historical and have some historical background behind it, and yeah, and the residents, I've had contact with the residents in the past from calls that have come in through ABCA's hotline.
So is it fair to say that you're fairly familiar with this location?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right, fine. Now, did you have an opportunity to speak to the protester in this particular case?
I did.
And what information, if any, were you able to gather based on your conversation with the? Can I ask everyone to mute their line if they're not speaking, please? What information, if any, were you able to gather as a result of your conversation with Mr. McCarty, the protester?
Yeah, Mr. McCarty, representing the ANC, stated that really he had a couple concerns. He wasn't against the business. It didn't seem to be. It seemed to be that they were even trying to work on a settlement agreement. But the constituents and the neighborhood and that the concerns were vehicle parking, and that having another business would just make that a lot worse. And I think it really stemmed from traffic, the traffic that would potentially add to Blagden's Alley. That's already he felt that was already congested with lack of parking spaces and vehicles driving through there. And that's really was the main concern that really came up as we spoke.
Now, did you have an opportunity to speak to the applicant?
I did. I went out and met with Mr. Welch and did a walkthrough of the space uh, of the proposed facility, and he kind of described to me, what his plans were with the space, what he planned on doing things, and he stated that he was working with the ANC to come up with an agreement, and up until the original protest date, multiple I was told, I never seen any copies, but I was told that multiple settlement agreements were drafted back and forth between the parties, and that it kept coming back as marked up, and they could never really come to a solid agreement. That's why it led to the original hearing date. And that's the last. But Mr. Welch seemed like he was willing to work with the ANC, and willing to make some agreements with them. Um, and yeah, and that's kind of the gist of it when it comes to conversations with Mr. Welch.
All right. So can you describe the zoning for this area, please?
Sure. This is, according to DC zoning maps, it's zoned as a MU4 zoning, which basically is defined as a moderate density mixed use development for shopping, business needs, housing, mixed use for large segments of the district outside the central core. Be located in a low moderate density. Essentially, the zoning is mixed use for residential and commercial businesses, is what it's saying. Um, there was no schools or rec centers within 300 feet of the location. There's no other medical cannabis retailers within 400 feet of the location. The closest one is on 9th Street, which actually just got licensed, Don Fuego. I conducted measurements, physical wheel measurements early on before Positronics even got their placards to confirm that they were outside of 400 feet from there.
So do you know, I know this is not in your report, but do you know how far approximately, you mentioned this other establishment, Don Fuego. Do you know exactly what's the distance, but if this license would be issued, what's the distance between these two? I know
Yeah,
you said it's beyond 400 feet, but
yes,
yeah,
yes.
but
I,
I'm
you
just,
know, I,
but yeah.
I would have to go back to my records. I don't want to give you a false number. It was definitely, I believe it breached outside of 500 feet because of the access. I take the most direct access that a person can take between when I'm doing these wheel measurements. So walking down the sidewalk, making a left, going down the alley. Yeah, I was surprised that it was a lot more than it seemed after I walked it, and I walked it twice. Um, but I do not have those measurements
Okay.
handy. It was some time ago.
Okay, that's fine. You did provide already the what. All right, so let's move on to so what are the the proposed hours of operation for this establishment?
Yes, the proposed hours of operations were 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. and the hours of sales and open to the public was from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Um, and that was Sunday through Saturday were the same hours.
Now, are these hours, are they within the 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 hours for this type of facility if the license was to be granted, or are these hours, do these hours exceed the legal hours that the agency has established for this type of facility?
These hours are actually under that because at the time of placarding, the law only gave retailers till 9 p.m., but now the law gives retailers till 11 p.m. So essentially, these hours are 2 hours less than the now legal operation hours for a dispensary.
Okay, fine. And so if say for example, if this establishment wanted to open till if they wanted to change the hours, I mean, what's the process if this is something that if they wanted to change the hours to legal to what's now considered the legal hours that the agency grants this type of establishment?
Yeah, they would submit a request to the board, and based on the current situation with the ANC, I'm assuming they would have to have some kind of support from the ANC to move those hours.
And if there was no support, what would happen?
Potentially, they could turn into another protest situation
Okay,
regarding
fine.
change of hours.
All right. So, did you have an opportunity to visit the proposed location?
Yes, I went on just a few occasions. Obviously, there's no activity there. The building is the first floor of the building is not being used. There's a the second floor is a private gym. So I went there on October 16th, November 14th, December 19th, doing different times. But as I expected, I mean, there was no activity directly relating to the business. Now, obviously there was you know standard vehicle traffic during those times. The businesses that are there have employees parking there, obviously, um, but beyond that, there was no activity, obviously at that business.
Uh,
Mr. Chair, do you want me to just jump into the photos below to kind of
Yes. Yeah, I need you
give
to. Yeah,
everybody
just
this?
go. Yeah,
Okay.
go through the photos, please. Identify them for the record.
Yeah, so as you can see here, I'm trying to let me zoom out some. So this is the whole snapshot. You can see from this window to the left to this window to the right is essentially the facility. And there's a roll down gate that's to the right here that is not for some reason in my photo, but it expands. It has a pretty extensive storefront. This where the 1209 letters are, that's going to be the main entrance. And Mr. Welch, we had we had several conversations about different ideas and plans that he had, getting my input based on a statute and regulations for a medical cannabis retailer about the layout and what that should look like. So, I can't tell people how to make their layouts and design, but I offer guidance based on what the laws say. So I did do a walkthrough of the space completely, and there's a lot of potential for different ideas, but this main entrance at 1209 is going to be the main entrance and the lobby and check-in area for the dispensary. And then once you get in, there's options to which way he wants to set the dispensary up. This is another view from the outside, as you can see, just a different angle shooting to the alleyway here, just to show it's right literally abutting against this alley. The entrance is, if you head down to the right here, that will take you to 10th Street. And this is a shot of that alley, going down the alley that leads to 10th. This is the opposite direction. I just turned around, took another picture shooting the opposite way of the alley. As you can see, doing this visit particularly, there wasn't cars in the alley, but then in between the buildings. So this to the left, this black wall, is the building of the facility. The second floor is where the gym is at. You can see the gym sandwich board sign here, but that gym stairs and accesses from here from this side. This is a parking lot that is Mr. Welch, is the businesses, the proposed retailers. This is their parking lot. It was filled with cars only because the business next door, Insomniacs, had a employee event. And actually, I met the owner while I was there. That's how I know that. But the Insomniacs has an event, and that's why all these cars were parked in that parking lot. This is directly behind the proposed facility. You can see there is no rear entrance, which from security standpoint, it's great. You can see, there's no way to break in from the rear. It's all on the first level, and this is their back. This is a window here that's been blocked up and barred up from inside and outside. And then we get to the inside. So this is, when you saw that front door, I said the lobby. This is the proposed lobby area and check-in. As you can see, it's kind of really set up already that way, from the previous business that was there. But this is where, renovations have not started at all. I believe the owners were waiting for this process to be complete before they come up with start renovations and spending the monies on everything. This is the room. If you're outside facing to the left window, this is that room to the left. That could be essentially be the dispensary or an employee area if they chose to do so. This is inside of the thought of being a possible storage area for dispensaries are required to have secure lock storage, a safe room. So there's potential to build some kind of safe room here. because there's two sides of bricked concrete walls, which are already adds to the safety and security of the space. And then you jump into just the GIS map that was provided that shows. I included I included two maps. I included the zoning map. This way, just for a snapshot, people can kind of see. Let me zoom back in here before making us all dizzy. Um, looking at the zoning map, just to kind of get an idea of if you look at the GIS map here, right? This map will show the proposed location. As you can see, it's on the rear side of 10th, and 10th being back here. And if you look at this map here, kind of same thing. If it falls into this square, so just as a mirror image of here's the business here, and here's the business here, and this is kind of where that's that alleyway I took pictures of, um, and that's of the proposal, and that's all I have, Chair.
All right, fine. Thank you. You can close your screen, please. All right. Any questions of the investigator by any board members? All right. Mr. Lewis, any questions of the investigator, sir?
I'll be very, very brief. Good morning, sir. Was it,
Morning.
was there any, has there been any indication or basis to believe that these potential operators are unfit in any way to perform as licensed operators in the location?
No, not to my knowledge.
Do you think they would add to the community?
I think that's a kind of open question. I think that there's a big debate still in the communities about cannabis, but it is medical cannabis. It's made for medicine for the community. And I think it'd be helpful to the community to have a dispensary that could operate as such. And yeah, so I can't speak for the residents there what they feel. But I know that this type of business under a medical cannabis retail license should operate as a good operator.
Okay. And based on your review of the location and the proposed or the business proposal, do you think that the business will add any traffic to the alley?
That's also a hard thing to predict, right? I can't. I mean, most of these retailers are actually providing medical cannabis and medicine to patients within the community. So that means people foot traffic, right? More foot traffic than vehicular traffic. So, I would say there'd be more foot traffic to this location than there actually would be vehicles. But as you can see from the pictures, I mean, undoubtedly vehicle traffic and parking is obviously the tightest thing about that whole space. But he does have that parking lot to himself, if he chose to keep it that way.
Do you know how many parking spots are available in that parking lot?
I couldn't tell. You saw the bad picture with all the cars stacked up because that business was having an employee event. So I couldn't tell you how many actual quote unquote spaces exist there.
If I told you that there were 10 parking spaces, would that sound right based on the space there?
That sounds like a lot, but there was there was a lot of cars piled in there, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was properly if vehicles were properly parked. It's 10.
Okay, I mean, I can proffer to the board that there are 10 parking spaces there. So it's your position then, sir, that the business will not add congestion, that it would likely be foot traffic.
I think there'd be more foot traffic than vehicle traffic, yes, in my experience and opinion.
Okay. And on the business proposal, do you think that the hours are reasonable under the circumstances and the location?
Oh yeah, 100%. In fact, like I said, the law's changed to 11 p.m. I suggest to all retailers that they get the maximum amount of hours and then decide based on business and how business goes if they want to close early or not. I think that's always a best option for them because it's unknown. We can't predict how busy a business would actually be, right?
So actually restricting the hours to 9 as opposed to 11, which they're entitled to, is actually restricting their capabilities, but they're still choosing to do it, right?
Yeah, they're limiting themselves, correct?
Yeah. Okay. And Mr. Anderson, I'd prefer to just keep my any time that I have available
No,
for rebuttal.
it's on time, so this is your only opportunity to ask the investigator, sir. So if you have any other questions, because I'm not going to give you another opportunity to ask. Because remember, this is our witness. This is the board's witness, so you need to exhaust whatever questions you have of him, sir.
I don't think this needs to be belabored. I think if the board had more questions, the board is free to ask. Thank you for my time.
Thank you, sir. Mr. McCarty, any questions of the investigator?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will also try to keep mine brief. Mr. Peru, could you explain why the report was not issued prior to our original protest hearing, even though your site visits occurred before that hearing?
Well, to be quite frank with you, I was under the impression that you guys were coming to a settlement and that it was not going to go forward with a protest. And then beyond that, I had a conference that I was attending for cannabis enforcement. As you know, I am responsible for cannabis enforcement in the district against unlicensed shops. Due to those reasons, that's why a case report was not drafted prior to that first hearing. In fact, I tried to have that hearing even moved. But courtesy to you guys and the parties involved, the board did not do that. So I apologize for that, but that's why it worked out the way it did.
Thank you. Could you also explain why interviews for the report were taken after the initial hearing?
I'm sorry, what interviews are you referring to?
In your report, you said that you spoke with Mr. Patrick Welch after the initial hearing, which was on December, I believe, 4th. So I'm just curious, you had the report completed in mid-December, and I know
No,
I understand the delays, but
Well, no, just so we're clear, if you look at the report, I actually first interviewed Mr. Welch right after I spoke with you. So I spoke to Mr. Welch back in October. However, I didn't visit the location and take the photos during that visit. That's when the photos were taken on December 19th. And that's when I was putting together the actual report and getting the most updated current photos of the location. So I did speak to Mr. Welch several times since October, since we first the protest first came up. I kept checking back in to see, like I did with you, on some occasions, reference to if a settlement agreement was actually coming to light.
thank you. Uh, how many times did you speak with Mr. Welch after the original protest hearing?
Well, I can't say because Mr. Welch has other cannabis businesses that he is working on, so he contacts me regarding the other businesses. So I can't really define how many times you spoke about Positronics.
Okay, thank you. So upon reviewing the application for Positronics, did you see anything indicating that Mr. Patrick Welch is indeed a partner in the business?
Well, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna object to that question. That was not a question. That's not within the case report. It's not a question that the board asked, so I'm not quite sure. I know that there's allegation, but as far as the agency is concerned, this is a license. We only have one licensee, and until another person has identified themselves to the board or to the agency as an owner, whatever the chatter is on the street, that's not relevant currently to the board. So I'm not going to allow that question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may, I just wanted to ask that because at our last hearing, we did establish that Daniel Sims is the only owner of record for the application. So I wanted to ask why Mr. Sims was not part of this investigation process. And it seems that solely Mr. Welch was.
I mean, I don't know. So, but I don't think that's relevant for this hearing because it's not in our report. It's not in the case report, and it's not an issue. It's not an issue that like this witness testified to. So let's move on. All right.
Thank you. Are you aware of any historical preservation designations for Blagden Alley?
Can you ask the
Like
question?
I mentioned earlier, I'm aware that.
Hold on, Mr. Peru. Mr. Lewis, do you have an objection?
I'm sorry. No, something happened with my feed and I didn't hear the question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The
Go
question
I'm
ahead.
happy to repeat. Mr. Peru, are you aware of any historical designations for Blagden Alley?
Like I mentioned earlier, I am aware of the historic designation based on my past investigations of other businesses. I don't know the details behind that though.
Thank you. I do want to ask a few questions about nearby establishments. I know the chairman already asked about Don Fuego earlier. There is another already approved cannabis dispensary in ANC 2G04, just a block north, the Chill Tobacco. Do you know how far that dispensary's distance is from the proposed location of Positronics?
No, Chill Tobacco. I've been to Chill Tobacco. In fact, I'm doing a final inspection of Chill Tobacco tomorrow, so they can be issued their license. But there was no reason to measure Chill Tobacco because they're outside of the GIS map, and it was not brought up as a concern of a distance. The law says that retailers can be within 400 feet of one another, and when the mapping is done on a new retailer, on a existing retailer, the map will show the retailers that are then licensed. And if they're not on the map, then they're not of concern. Therefore, measurements were not taken.
Thank you. Are you aware of how many licensed or applications in the process for medical cannabis dispensaries within ANC 2G as a whole?
I'm not aware. Like I said, I do all the final inspections. So, they're within 400 feet of one another. And if the distance becomes a concern, then measurements are conducted. But beyond that, I do not know by wards or districts how many locations are being licensed or in the process.
So even though ANC 2G is protesting in part with concerns of oversaturation of medical cannabis dispensaries within the districts, within the ANC's district, you're not able to answer how many medical cannabis dispensaries are
Objection.
being licensed.
All right, hold on, Mr. Lewis. Yeah, I'm gonna sustain the objection. Mr. McCarty, what we care about is I think in order to have overconcentration, there has to be a base before the board can a base of a certain amount of establishments before the board can even consider or even make a determination if there is concentration. I believe that the GIS map that was done, there are no other there are no other facility within the at least the location. So if there are no other facility within the GIS map, we can't even talk about overconcentration. I mean, I know that when we're talking about alcohol, although we use some of the same language, we do the 1,200 feet, and then we'll measure to see how many alcohol license establishment within the 1,200 feet. But I think this is a new industry. There are not that many licenses, so we're not in a position to even make any arguments regarding overconcentration. So that's one of the reasons why I'm sustaining the objection, sir. So this is not an area that we can address at this juncture because there are not that many licenses out there for for overconcentration to be an issue. Okay.
Thank you. How do you know how much public parking is available in Blagden Alley?
Public parking? No, I do not.
Okay, there's actually no public parking in Blagden Alley.
Objection.
All right, Mr. Lewis, you're an attorney, and Mr. McCarthy at least has not presented himself as an attorney, so I do give non-attorneys some leeway. However, sir, let's move on.
Are you aware of any other establishments in Blagden Alley that have dedicated parking, such as like Positronics?
Objection. Relevance.
I mean, part of the issue is I'm overruling the objection because part of the issue is the ANC protested this based on parking and the impact that's going to have on the residents. So it is a relevant question to ask. I mean, we had Mr. Peru testified regarding available parking spaces, and he said that he's familiar with the area. So yeah, that's a question that can be asked because it is one of the protest issue that the board can elect if a license is granted. We can issue certain orders regarding parking. So if Mr. Peru can answer the question, go ahead, Mr. Peru.
Okay, can you repeat the question? I lost count of what you're asking. Sorry.
No worries. Are you aware of any other establishments within Blagden Alley that also have dedicated parking?
Not to my knowledge. I don't know of any liquor licenses or anybody back there that has their own parking.
Thank you. Just a few more questions. Are you aware, I know we've been talking about width and congestion. Are you aware of how wide the alley is on both the right side of the business, so entering from 10th Street into Blagden Alley, and how wide the alley is in front of the establishment?
I mean, I took pictures, so my pictures kind of give a good snapshot. That's why I did that. It's definitely a single vehicle, if that's what you're asking me. If it looks like only one vehicle can pass at a time on one side for sure. I wouldn't squeeze a semi truck in there.
Okay, thank you. And so if a delivery truck were to stop in the alley, do you believe it would obstruct traffic?
Define delivery truck. I think there's some confusion about what delivery for cannabis is.
If I believe for the record, last time we said they would be maybe vans. But if a van parked in front of the establishment,
Objection.
What's the
Objection.
nature of the objection, Mr. Lewis?
The record speaks for itself from the last hearing, and I do not recollect anyone discussing a van delivering items.
All right.
I think there was a backpack discussed, and that was about a max to where we went. So, littering the record with all this superfluous whatever,
All right, I'm gonna. All right, I'm gonna overrule the objection, though. However, Mr. McCarthy, I think we're going far afield of what the issues are here, and so I'm overruling the objection, but I'm not quite sure what you're trying to get to and whether or not this is relevant information for the board. Okay, but if Mr. Peru can answer the question, he can. And I think we're talking about delivery, Mr. Peru, and I think you're saying that there's maybe confusion regarding delivery.
Yeah, so I mean, if I'm being frank here, with my experience and what is allowed, delivery vehicles are just that, right? They're typically standard vehicles. They're very discrete vehicles. The law says that a vehicle cannot be marked. It has to have GPS tracking on it. It cannot be advertising cannabis on the vehicle. So if that's the case, most vehicles are at best a form of a transit van or a small SUV that is carrying product that has to have a secure lock storage. So do I think that type of vehicle could fit and park in front of a place to deliver? Of course. But yes, do I think that a massive delivery vehicle, 18-wheeler or U-Haul truck should be parked over there? No, I'll agree with that. But as a standard operations for retailers and delivery, that's kind of what we're seeing in the market and what's allowed.
Thank you. On the investigative report, the first site visit says you were there from 3 p.m. to 3:30 a.m. Is that correct?
No, it wasn't the AM. It was probably PM. So that's probably a typo, I'm sure. So I
Okay,
apologize for that.
thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to confirm. I was going to
Yep.
congratulate you on on spending so much time out there.
No,
Um,
no, I have been there at 3 o'clock in the morning for alcohol business, but not not at that time.
and so from your report, it looks like you were only visiting in the early afternoons. So you were never there during the later hours when maybe there was more traffic or more activity in the alley.
Like I said, when this is different than a liquor license protest because a liquor license will have activities around it. There's no other cannabis facilities that I can compare that would cause in comparison to activities. So no, I did not go in the evenings. I've been there in the evenings, like I said, multiple times for work for alcohol liquor license establishments and seen the activity there in that alley from drop-offs from Ubers from pickups and all that, those type of activities, car services. But beyond that, no.
Just one last question. So, you mentioned earlier that the establishment is tucked in the rear of Blagden Alley. So do you feel that it is obscured from 10th Street Northwest?
Well, the address is 10th Street Northwest rear, right? So it is not. I mean, yeah, I don't know what you're asking because it's not on 10th Street, and that's clear by the address. It's on the backside.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you. All right, I don't have any further questions for Mr. Peru. Thank you very much, Mr. Peru, for your testimony this morning. All right, thank you. You have a great day.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you,
All
board.
right,
Take
all
care.
right, thank you. All right, Mr. Lewis, it's time for closing. And so are you prepared for closing? Do you want to take a short break or so the applicant goes first and then the protestant goes second. So do you want to take a break or are you ready to go and move into closing?
I would appreciate a break. I have to use the little boy's room.
All right, it's 11:20. We'll be on a short break until 11:30. So we'll be back on the record at 11:30. Okay?
Thank you,
All right,
sir.
thanks. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, we're back in the record. All right. All right. As I stated, it's time for closing. What I would like the parties to be specific, what it is that the licensee, the applicant wants us to do, and then as far the protestant is concerned, I want the protestant to be specific what it is that they're asking us to do. Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, esteemed members of the board. Thanks for this opportunity to speak with you and provide advocacy for the applicant. I mean, it's plain and simple. The applicant is asking for an approval of their application. You know, I think you guys have already heard my opinions on things through my questioning and the testimony that you've heard. I think the protest that's being put forward here in this case is a case of, you know, air quotes, not in my backyard type of attitude. And it, you know, kind of snubs its nose or really doesn't address, you know, the real impact of what this business and establishment will add to the community. You know, some of the things that I've jotted down on the things that it will add is that it's a self-contained unit. There are 10 parking spaces that are available for the constituents and customers of the establishment. You heard the investigator say that, you know, at best, you're going to have an SUV that's dropping things off for deliveries. You know, deliveries are going to be taking place at a safe time, you know, probably before or after hours. So you know, delivery is not, it shouldn't be a concern for the board. Congestion should not be a concern for the board, you know, based on what I just outlined. I think this establishment will add security to the neighborhood. You're going to have a security guard there. You're going to have, there's already cameras. I mean, they're increasing the lighting. They've made it, you know, impossible to access from the back of the building. So there's only one entrance. I think it adds security if nothing else. And foremost, it brings it brings life, fosters new life, and you know, generates growth in the community. I mean, you're adding a retail space that's going to be adding much needed tax revenue to the you know, to DC. And it's going to take a space that's not active and it's going to make it active. And you know, that area there, there's a lot of foot traffic on people just walking through there, and having an establishment in there, having a retail business in there, I think just fosters that new growth, and fosters the added commerce for that Blagden Alley area, which, you know, historically has been blighted. And here you have people that want to turn that around, and you know, I implore their ambitions, and I think the board should as well. And look at the clientele you're going to have. This is medical marijuana. Yeah, these people that are the potential customers, they don't want any trouble. They're going to go to the establishment. They're gonna buy their medical marijuana and they're going to go home. They're not going to loiter around. This is by far a better establishment than a bar. So you know, some of the concerns brought up by the AMC, I think, are just unfounded. And you know, I think the board heard from the investigator that, this is an establishment and potential operators that will make a successful business and again add value to the community. That's all I have. I hope that the board will make the right decision and approve the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will try to be brief. I think the position of the ANC is to ask that the board deny the application and consider alternative solutions for the location. Part of that is due to the limitations of public participation in the process. I know that is out of all of our hands right now, and other work for myself as commissioner has included partnering with Director Musali and council members to attempt to meaningfully change the process so constituents and neighbors can participate. But in the case that the board does decide to grant this application, we simply ask that you consider ways to reduce the negative impacts. Specifically, I would request that the investigator go out again during later times in the evening, because the investigation site visits did not occur during the specified evening hours, which the ANC did go on record saying were the primary concern for congestion and pedestrian safety. So I would ask that the board consider additional site visits during those time periods to get a better reflection of our concerns. I would also ask that that you consider a reduction of the hours if it is truly a medical cannabis dispensary, as the applicant has said. Then it's only reasonable that they more closely reflect pharmacy hours. And I'd be happy to share those hours of our local pharmacies if you'd like. And then a couple more things that we just request from the board are enforceable parking requirements. The investigator earlier said he could not confirm the number of spaces there, so it's still unclear if there are actually 10 parking spaces there. And so we ask that you consider a board order that has mechanisms to enforce that parking does take place in their privately owned parking lot. And then last but not least, the security and my the commission and my constituents have yet to see a detailed security plan for the license. We asked for that during mediation, and we also FOIA'd the application, but there was no security plan ever shared. That is of great concern to us, and we would like the board to make sure that that is shared with the impacted neighbors and with the commission.
Is that, sir?
That is all. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation this morning. I guess the last question, the record is now closed. I'll ask this question. Do the parties wish to file proposed findings of fact and conclusion of law or waive their right to do that? And so therefore, what I mean is that if, do you want to get a copy of the transcript, review the transcript to say this is what the facts, this is what the law is, and that would be due to the board. The transcript would not be available for another 3 weeks. And then those proposed findings and facts and conclusion of law would be due to the board within 3 weeks after you receive the transcript. But normally in protest hearing, parties do not do that. So the parties can waive that request. It further elongates the process, or the board. I believe that the board has sufficient information that we can make a decision, so we don't really need the representatives, at least in my view, anyway, to review the transcript to say this is what the facts that were that came out. This is what the law is. You can't bring in new information. It would be just the evidence from the transcripts, and I don't believe, at least in my view, that that's necessary. But that's an option the parties have. Mr. Lewis.
We're going to waive.
All right, Mr. McCarthy.
I would not like to waive.
All right,
Mr.
so
Chairman.
yes, Mr. McCarthy. All right. Well, what this means then, sir, is that the transcripts will be. This is basically a legal brief you file in with the agency. So the transcripts will be available in approximately. Hold on, let me make sure that I have the right
Mr.
requirement.
Anderson,
Yes, Mr.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what happened there. For some reason, my
Hold on.
service goes in and out.
Hold on. I've not done anything as yet. Hold on, sir. Give me 1 minute. I need to that I'm quoting the right. Hold on a minute, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Anderson?
Yes, Mr. Lewis.
My understanding, before I was cut off with my service, my understanding is that the ANC has asked for, they're not waiving. Is that
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes, that's
We would object to that. I mean, unless there's a basis, a valid, reasonable basis to be asking for that. I mean, at this point, I feel like it's a stall tactic for the ANC, and I don't see a reason for it.
Unfortunately, that's not a decision that I can make. It is the regulation states that this is available, and and so because it's available, and the ANC has elected to do this, I cannot. They can. They can change their mind. The ANC can advise the agency that it has changed its mind, but because they've elected to do proposed findings of facts and conclusion of law, I cannot prevent them from exercising that right. And so the transcripts will be available in approximately 3 weeks. So we'll mail the transcript to the parties, and the proposed findings of fact and conclusion of law are due to the agency 30 days upon receipt of the transcript. If the parties, if Mr. McCarthy, if you decide, if you've changed your mind, as you can advise us as soon as possible that you will no longer do proposed findings of fact and conclusion of law. Okay.
Thank you. I will keep that in mind.
All right. Okay. All right. So with that, let me close the record. As chairperson of the Alcoholic Beverage and Cannabis Board for the District of Columbia, and in accordance with DC Code Section 2575 of the Open Meetings Act, I move that ABC Board hold a closed meeting for the purpose of seeking legal advice from our counsel on case number 24PRO00080 Positronics, pursuant to DC Official Code Section 2575B4A of the Open Meetings Act, and deliberating upon case number 24PRO00080 Positronics for the reasons cited in DC Official Code Section 2575B13 of the Open Meetings Act. Is there a second?
Mr. Grant, I second the motion.
Mr. Grant has seconded the motion. I will now take a roll call vote before us now that the motion has been properly seconded. Mr. Grant.
Mr. Grant, I agree.
Mr. Meadows.
Mr. Meadows, I agree.
Mr. Anderson, I agree. As it appears that the motion has passed, I hereby give notice that ABC Board will recess this proceeding to hold a closed meeting pursuant to Section 2575 of the Open Meetings Act. All right, thank you everyone for your presentation this morning. As I stated, the transcript will be available in approximately 3 weeks, and your proposed findings of facts and conclusion of law are due to the agency, the board, within 30 days upon after receipt of the transcript. If you change your mind and decide not to do the proposed findings of fact and conclusion of law, please alert the agency as soon as possible. I just want to alert the parties again. The proposed findings of fact and conclusion of law, this is not, you cannot bring in any information that's not in the transcript. So it's not information that was never discussed at the hearing. So basically you'll be reading the transcript and you'll be saying what the facts are that were established in the transcript during this hearing, and this is what the law states based on what the facts are that were testified to during the hearing. Okay? All right. Thank you very much.
Understood.
All right. Thank you very much for your presentation this morning. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank
You
you,
as
sir.
well.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. All right. And let me now close the record for the day. As chairperson of the Alcoholic Beverage and Cannabis Board for the District of Columbia and in accordance with Title III, Chapter 405, Office of Open Government, I move that ABC Board hold a closed meeting on January 29th for the purpose of discussing and hearing reports concerning ongoing or planned investigations of alleged criminal or civil misconduct or violations of law or regulations, and seeking legal advice from our legal counsel on the board's investigative agenda, legal agenda, and licensing agenda for January 29th, as published in DC Register on January 24th. Is there a second?
Mr. Meadows, I second.
Mr. Meadows has seconded the motion. I will now take a roll call vote. Mr. Grant.
Mr. Grant, I agree.
Mr. Meadows.
Mr. Meadows, I agree.
Mr. Anderson, I agree. As it appears that the motion has passed 3-0, I hereby give notice that the ABC Board will hold this closed meeting pursuant to the Open Meetings Act. Notice will also be posted on the ABC Board Hearing Room Bulletin Board, placed on electronic calendar and ABCA's website, and published in DC Register in as timely a manner as practical. We're now adjourned for the day. Thank you, board members, for your participation today. I now ask all board members to return to executive session for further development. Thank you very much. Have a great morning.